Hi everyone, I'm Anita Sharma. You're watching A News. Here's what's making news right now. French President Emmanuel Macron appoints François Bayrou as Prime Minister to mitigate the political crisis. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons urges an investigation into the use of chemical weapons in Syria. Turkey's Foreign Affairs Minister discusses the future of Syria with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. We begin with French President Emmanuel Macron appointing François Bayrou as the new prime minister, this following the resignation of Michel Barnier. Bayrou, a 73-year-old centrist ally, replaces Barnier after the government was ousted by a parliamentary vote last week. Barnier's administration had tried to pass a trimmed-down Social Security budget to address France's large deficit, which led to the collapse of his government. Bayrou, a long-standing figure in French politics and a key partner in Macron's centrist alliance, is expected to form his government in the coming days. As the year wraps up, France finds itself at a political and economic crossroads. After Michel Barnier's government collapsed following that no-confidence vote, political divisions deepened.
France is facing a political crisis that could have far-reaching consequences for the Eurozone. Marine Le Pen's far-right party has gained traction, posing a serious challenge to President Emmanuel Macron's government. The rise of populism and increasing discontent with Macron's economic reforms have shaken France's political stability, with implications for the European Union. Le Pen's national rally is polling at around 25–30%, while Macron's Renaissance party struggles to maintain its support base. Disapproval of Macron's pension reforms has further fueled political tensions, with protests erupting across France. France approaches a political and economic crossroads as 2024 ends, following the collapse of Michel Barnier's government after a no-confidence vote, appointed in September to address the deficit crisis. Barnier's tenure was marred by backlash to austerity measures, including tax hikes and spending cuts. His efforts to reduce the €3.2 trillion debt and comply with European Union fiscal rules failed amid fierce opposition from Marine Le Pen's national rally and far-left factions. Macron appointed Barnier to stabilize the situation, but his budget bypassed parliamentary debate, fueling discontent. France's deficit rose to 5.5% of GDP in 2023 due to massive pandemic-related spending, prompting the European Commission to place it under scrutiny. The European Union requires a deficit under 3% for financial stability. With the 2024 deficit projected at 6.1%, Barnier proposed a budget of €40 billion in cuts and €20 billion in tax hikes to reduce the deficit of 5% by 2025. While this plan satisfies Brussels, it remains unpopular within France. Now, France faces rising bankruptcies, inflation, and a bleak fiscal outlook, with Moody's warning of broader risks to the Eurozone.
The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons urges an investigation into the use of chemical weapons in Syria. The organization plans to call on Syria's new leadership to grant access for investigators to continue uncovering those responsible for the attacks that left thousands dead or injured during the civil war.
The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons held a closed-door session with its 41-member Executive Council. The meeting focused on addressing the situation in Syria after the sudden toppling of President Bashar al-Assad. OPCW Director General Fernando Arias noted positive signals from Syria about addressing its chemical weapons, but said no formal commitments had been made. Syria joined the OPCW in 2013 under a US-Russia deal to dismantle its chemical arsenal. According to the UN and OPCW investigations, banned weapons remain in Syria, and Assad's forces were found to have repeatedly used sarin and chlorine bombs. The OPCW, based in the Netherlands, enforces the 1997 Chemical Weapons Convention. It helped dismantle Syria's chemical arsenal, much of it neutralized on a specialized US ship. the OPCV6 Syria's cooperation to eliminate chemical weapons and ensure accountability for their past use.
With curfews lifted, Syria sees a resurgence in commerce as markets reopen and independent currency trading becomes legal under the transitional government.
Shops across Damascus now openly advertise money exchange services, marking a significant shift from earlier restrictions. The historic Ahmadiyya Bazaar, closed during recent turmoil, has reopened, reflecting a cautious return to normality. Syria's transitional government, led by Mohammed al-Bashir, is steering the country towards a free market economy. Efforts include easing financial regulations, stabilizing inflation, and encouraging the return of displaced Syrians. These changes aim to rebuild a nation recovering from years of conflict and economic strain. Once punishable by law, independent currency trading is now widespread. In downtown Damascus, businesses display signs offering currency exchange for various denominations, catering to locals and traders alike. The Syrian pound, which once stood at 50 to the dollar before 2011, now trades at 15,000, illustrating the economic challenges ahead. Economists see reopening markets and new financial freedoms as vital steps to attract investment and encourage economic recovery. The streets of Damascus, now adorned with flags symbolizing the interim government, showcase a nation striving for stability amid significant change.
An American, Travis Timmerman, was recently found in Syria after months of being unaccounted for. His parents, relieved and overjoyed by the news, share their reaction while U.S. officials work to bring him home.
Call you Travis.
That's
Okay.
Travis.
And where were you?
Parents of Travis Timmerman, an American recently found in Syria after being missing for 7 months, are relieved and grateful to hear he's alive. The 29-year-old identified himself in videos posted online after he was freed from a prison following the ousting of Syria's president Bashar al-Assad.
My name is Travis.
Travis.
Yes.
So إذا وصلنا إلى شخص يدعى Travis Timmerman.
That's right.
That's right.
But just Travis. Just call me Travis.
Yeah, call you Travis.
That's
Okay.
Travis.
And where were you all this time?
I was imprisoned in Damascus for the last 7 months.
Travis's parents described the moment they confirmed that he was alive and expressed gratitude about the discovery.
Thank God he's alive.
Yeah.
Thank God. I think God was with him.
I was looking at the videos. I'm like, yes, it's him. So excited.
Yes.
I just started bawling.
Even his brothers and his sisters excited too. So
It's like the best Christmas present ever.
The gardeners also reflected on Travis's achievements before his disappearance and questioned why he went to Syria.
I'm very proud of him. And he's a smart kid. He had his finance degree and he went to law school
Pass the bar.
but I just don't understand why he went over there. But I guess I will never find out. I mean, I'll probably find out, but when he gets home,
You're wringing his neck. What were you thinking?
he was just joking.
Like, what were you thinking?
Meanwhile, U.S. officials are working to bring Travis Timmerman back to the United States. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken confirmed the efforts, providing an update on the ongoing situation in Syria.
In terms of an American citizen who was found just today, I can't give you any details on exactly what's going to happen except to say that we're working to bring him home, to bring him out of Syria.
The U.S. is continuing its efforts to bring Travis Timmerman back home, while also working on locating other Americans missing in Syria, including journalist Austin Tice, who has been missing for over a decade.
In Ankara, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan outlined shared priorities for stabilizing Syria and countering terrorism during their bilateral talks.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan in Ankara to discuss critical issues, including the future of Syria and counter-terrorism efforts. The meeting highlighted mutual concerns about stabilizing Syria. Blinken underscored the importance of establishing an inclusive, non-sectarian interim government in Syria.
There's broad agreement on what we would each like to see going forward, starting with the interim government in Syria, one that is inclusive and non-sectarian, one that protects the rights of minorities and women, one that preserves institutions of the state and delivers services to the people, one that deals with any chemical weapons it may find to secure them and appropriately destroy them, one that rejects any alliances with extremist groups, and, of course, one that does not pose any kind of threat to any of Syria's neighbors.
Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan echoed the need for regional cooperation to prevent terrorism from settling in Syria.
We discussed what kind of roles both United States and Turkey and regional actors need to play, and what kind of cooperation that we need to be in, especially finding stability in Syria, not letting terrorism to settle, and avoiding PKK and ISIS to be dominant. We discussed what can we do about those issues, what are our common worries, and solutions regarding those worries.
Earlier in the day, Secretary Blinken met with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to address broader regional and global issues. President Erdogan highlighted Turkey's commitment to combating terrorism and rebuilding Syria, while Blinken reaffirmed U.S. support for humanitarian assistance and protection for displaced Syrians.
Kyiv faced another major missile and drone attack early Friday as Russia targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure. President Zelensky reported 93 missiles and nearly 200 drones launched, with Ukrainian air defenses intercepting 81 missiles. Despite efforts, though, a thermal power plant sustained significant damage. This marks the 11th major attack on Ukraine's energy system this year, causing widespread power outages. Moldova has declared a state of emergency, citing a potential humanitarian crisis if Russian gas transit through Ukraine is cut off. Moldova's parliament approved a 60-day state of emergency starting December 16th, following concerns about a possible disruption of Russian gas supplies through Ukraine. The government's Commission for Emergency Situations can enforce mandatory measures on institutions and businesses. The decision faced opposition resistance and aims to address potential energy shortages this winter. To Georgia now, where tensions are running high as pro-European protests enter their 16th day, with calls for parliamentary reform and growing international pressure. The U.S. has expanded sanctions against Georgian officials while the country prepares for an historic presidential election on December 14th. Our Leila Rahimli brings us the latest from Tbilisi.
Hello, in Georgia, the political atmosphere is charged with ongoing protests, international reactions, and the upcoming presidential elections dominating the headlines. Today marks the 16th day of pro-European protests across Georgia. Thousands of people have gathered once again in different places of Tbilisi, demanding new parliamentary elections and a reaffirmation of Georgia's commitment to a pro-European path. Amidst this protest, international pressure is mounting. The United States has announced new visa restrictions targeting 20 additional Georgian officials accused of undermining democracy. This adds to a list of over 100 individuals associated with the ruling Georgian Dream Party. The U.S. State Department warns the government of possible new sanctions. The ruling party has responded with defiance. Leaders like Kakha Kaladze and Mamuka Midznaradze dismissed the sanctions as politically motivated and expressed hope for improved ties under the new U.S. administrations. They argue that Georgia's sovereignty must be respected and accuse foreign actors of interference. Meanwhile, Georgia is preparing for a historic presidential election on December 14. For the first time, the president will not be directly elected by the people, but chosen by a special electoral college. The ruling Georgian Dream Party has nominated Mikhail Kevolashvili, a former football player, as their candidate. However, opposition groups have dismissed the election as illegitimate and are calling for new parliamentary elections instead. President Salome Zurabishvili, whose term officially ends this month, remains at the center of the controversy. She has refused to vacate the presidential palace, stating that her mandate continues and rejecting the government's calls for her to step aside. By the way, Zurabishvili, Georgia's last president to be elected directly by the people, has criticized the shift to indirect elections, arguing that it weakens democratic accountability. Parliament Speaker Shalva Papashvili was defending the government's positions as accused President Salome Zurabishvili of undermining constitutional governance, claiming her actions have inflicted an unprecedented damage on the presidency. Papashvili further criticized her for overstepping her constitutional powers. He stressed that the presidency must respect the limitations of parliamentary republic, a vision he believes Kevolashvili embodies. At the same time, Tbilisi is preparing for the New Year festivities. The city main Christmas tree is set up to be lit on December 14, coincidence with the presidential elections. Mayor Kaha Kaladze has invited families to join the celebration, but the contrast between festival preparation and the tense political climate is striking. As Georgia moves towards this critical election, the country stands at a crossroads. The voices on the streets and the decisions made in a parliament will shape its future direction. And this is the latest updates for now. I am Leila Rahimli, reporting from Tbilisi, A News.
Tuvalu's fight to survive climate change is taking center stage at the International Court of Justice. Representatives warn the island nation, which is located in the Polynesian subregion of Oceania in the Pacific Ocean, will face catastrophic consequences unless urgent global action is taken.
At the International Court of Justice in the Netherlands, Tuvalu's leaders made an emotional appeal for the nation's survival. Rising sea levels threaten to render the island uninhabitable, forcing its more than 10,000 residents to leave their homeland.
Tuvalu, my country and my home, is expected to be the first country to be completely lost to climate-related sea level rise.
Salt water is already contaminating farmland and aquifers, devastating health and livelihoods. Tuvalu's Attorney General, Lane-Jane Italeli-Talia, calls for immediate global action.
The only way to prevent catastrophic levels of climate change is our states to implement immediate, rapid, and dramatic reductions in GHGs.
Tuvalu also highlighted the violation of their fundamental right to self-determination and urged the court to hold major polluters accountable.
Tuvalu is facing our greatest challenge in the history of our people.
The hearings, set to conclude today, could mark a turning point in the fight for justice for nations on the front lines of climate change.
Is not limited to physical.
A second impeachment motion against South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol was submitted to Parliament today following the failure of the first attempt back on December 7th. The initial motion was blocked after most members of Yoon's ruling People Power Party, PPP, boycotted the vote. Since then, at least 7 PPP lawmakers have publicly backed impeachment. On Thursday, Yoon defended his brief declaration of martial law, claiming it was to protect democracy and vowed to resist impeachment efforts. Opposition parties, which control the National Assembly, plan to hold a second vote Saturday, requiring support from at least 8 PPP members to pass the motion. Let's talk about business and innovation now, and prominent tech entrepreneur Elon Musk. He continues to make headlines with his achievements. His fortune is now very close to $500 billion US. Musk's ventures are seeing significant growth, driven by market confidence and strategic moves.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk's net worth surpassed $400 billion, according to the Forbes real-time billionaires list. The milestone was driven by a 71% surge in Tesla's shares this year and the rising valuation of his rocket company, SpaceX. Musk, Tesla's largest shareholder, saw the automaker's shares hit a record $425 on Wednesday, continuing a rally that began after the November 5th election. Musk reportedly spent over $250 million to support Trump's election. His wealth was further boosted by a SpaceX insider share scale, where Musk and investors agreed to buy up to $1.25 billion in common shares, Bloomberg reported. Musk noted on X that almost no investors wanted to sell shares, even at a $350 billion valuation. He added that SpaceX reduced its share buyback from employees to attract new investors. Beyond Tesla, Musk leads Neuralink, a brain tech startup, and SpaceX, both of which depend heavily on government policies. Musk also owns social media platform X and The Boring Company, a tunnel construction firm.
Rare dinosaur fossils brought from the U.S. into an auction in London were sold, forget this, around $15.2 million U.S.
3 dinosaur fossils, approximately 150 million years old and dated around the Jurassic period, were sold at a London auction for $10.6 million. The 3 skeletons dug out from the state of Wyoming were displaced at Christie's London showrooms just before the auction. Jurassic icons Allosaurus and Stegosaurus began. The auction presented an adult and juvenile Allosaurus, sold together for $10.3 million, and a Stegosaurus skeleton, sold for $5.4 million. This year in July, a Stegosaurus fossil found in Colorado brought a record of $44.6 million at a Sotheby's auction.
That's all from our team for now. Thank you so much for tuning in and keep watching A News. We'll see you again tonight. Take care.